Used to finish passing money around, okay. I'd like to call to order the December 14th meeting of the Milton School Committee, and as is our custom, I invite you to rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our agenda, I'd just like to take the opportunity to offer a moment of silence in memory of Assistant Superintendent John Phelan's mother, who passed away this weekend. Teresa had a brief illness. She's mother of 8 grandchildren and grandmother to 19, and so I'd invite just a moment of silence in memory of Mrs. Phelan. Thank you very much. On our agenda, a couple of amendments to it. In the chairman's report, Mrs. Sheridan has an announcement on the 350th celebration, which we'll put at the beginning of number 5. We are going to omit the executive session number 10 tonight. There is no need for that. Any other additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda for tonight? Seeing none, we will move on. And to citizen speak, we have one sign up this evening for Adam Roberts.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for giving me a quick opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Adam Roberts, and I'm the editor of Milton Patch, which is a community news website here in Milton. And the reason I'm talking to you tonight is that Patch, which has 860 like sites nationwide, is offering an opportunity for school districts to win $100,000 through a house decorating contest that we're offering now through the end of this month. So the contest is called Deck the House, and basically what it is people in Milton from today through December 26th can upload pictures of their house decorated for Christmas. So if you've already done that or you haven't done it yet, you can decorate your house and submit it on our website. You can either find it at milton.patch.com or at deckthehouse.patch.com and upload your either photos or videos of your decorated house. Once the picture of your picture or video is uploaded, Milton citizens can go on and vote for their favorite one that was submitted to our town. As those votes start to come in and the submissions come in, votes in the community become really important. So it's important that as many people know as possible to help Milton towards that goal. So once all the photos are uploaded, on December 26th, the highest vote getter in the town of Milton will be chosen as the winner for the town. So there'll be potentially 860 winners nationwide if there's at least one from each town. Those winners will then go to our national judges, and the judges will pick 24 across the country that go on in the contest. Those 24 winners will automatically win their electric bill up to $500 paid for the month of December. So that's a little personal incentive if you've already decorated your house to send it in. So then those 24 will then go to a national vote, and that's where the voters in Milton really become important. Because the winner of that vote over, so it's December 30th to January 8th. In that time period, the winner of the national vote from there will get the $100,000, no strings attached from Patch. So that's the basics of the contest. Lots of numbers, lots of dates, but like I said, if you go to milton.patch.com or deckthehouse.patch.com, you can get all the details, all the information you need.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sheridan.
Usually we don't ask questions, but is it just the outside of the house that you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay, no inside photos. I wasn't thinking about my house.
Mr. Walker.
Just one more question. Are we competing against cities and towns or just towns?
It's generally towns. Patch sites are usually in places between 15,000 people and 80,000. So there are some towns that might be a little bigger. I know in Massachusetts we have a site in Newton, so I believe that is the city. But we don't get much bigger than that.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great.
And seeing no one else for citizen speak, as we move into the superintendent's report, I just want to make a couple of recognitions. We have our student representatives here tonight again, Katia Ryder, Stephen Pierre, and Darren Johnson, who have demonstrated in the past their willingness to speak, so please demonstrate it again tonight. Join right in with anything that comes up. And I also want to just recognize Ann Cruikshank for her work for us, taking minutes over this last period, who, due to personal commitments, this will be her last meeting as our note taker. So I want to recognize Ann for her great work over the years. Superintendent Gormley.
Thank you, Chairman Pavlicek. I'd like to invite up Tucker Principal Marcia Uretsky and her site council representatives, teachers, and parents, and ask Principal Uretsky to make the introductions. Welcome this evening. I should have had that ready for you.
Gonna get cozy. We have enough. Good evening, everybody. I'm Marcia Uretsky, principal of Tucker School. I have Deb Fedoraki, who's a special ed teacher at Tucker in our co-taught grade 4 classroom. And I have Kristen O'Hara and Katie Manning, who are site council reps, with me tonight. And we're here tonight to present some of our growth data and our Tucker School Improvement Plan. Is the PowerPoint
Do you think you can go over there and run that for them?
ready?
Mary, where the lights? All the way down the end.
Maybe you have a story to tell while we wait.
Here we go. I don't know, I have it on my phone, Joe. There we go. That's Tucker School. So,
Everyone here, Miss Uretsky?
No.
let me know if I'm not speaking loudly enough. So, I just want to start off by sharing Tucker School, and one of the things that we're very proud of at Tucker is our richly diverse community. Tucker School is the most diverse school in Milton, and you can see by the numbers that we have a very diverse community. Our African-American population is 41.4%. And just to put that in perspective, compared to the entire district, which includes the middle school and the high school, in comparison to 18.6%. So we're very proud of our community. It provides a lot of richness to our student population and to our teacher population. In terms of selected populations, that type of diversity is echoed. Again, we have the most diversity across the town, and particularly a growing population at Tucker School is in terms of our low-income population. Change. And you can see the growth from 2006 to 2010. We've gone from 17.8% of students in our low-income population to 31.1%. So it's a population that's growing, and it's a population that we're working hard with in terms of student growth. We had very exciting news this year at Tucker School because we made AYP in every grade level, in every subject, in every subgroup across our MCAS data. So we are a high-performance rating school in both ELA and in math. We've always been high. Because we are looking to meet AYP in 2 years in a row, we are still in corrective action for our English language arts. And so we're hopeful that this year, again, we'll make our AYP numbers and we'll be bumped out of corrective action for that. And I do like to put into perspective, when we're talking about numbers at Tucker, we're the smallest school in Milton as well. As of today, we have, I believe it's 372 children. Every child counts. Every child at Tucker School is real percentage points, and we're talking every one child is about 2 points. So the numbers really do matter, and every child counts. When I was growing up, my mother always said to me, "Did you do your best?" That's all I can ask. Did you do your best? And at Tucker, one of our mottos that we strive for is personal best. I really believe all we can ask every child and every student and every teacher every day is, did you do your best? Did you give your best? So the children hear the words personal best. And that is reflected in our student growth percentile. Our overall student growth percentile in English language arts is 70%. 40 to 60% is considered average student growth. So we're very happy with our growth in English language arts at 70% as a whole school. In math, we're at 81.5% as a whole school for student growth percentile. So we're working hard, our students are working hard, we're demanding their personal best, and that's reflected in the student growth percentile. This is another way to look at it. In 2009, when we first started student growth percentile numbers, in ELA, that's the blue line for grade 4, we were at 40%. We went to 69.5% and 60%. And in grade 5, we started at 52%, went up to 90% and 81.5%. And if you think about this in cohorts, the 2009 40% fourth grade cohort grew to 90% in their fifth grade cohort. Does that make sense? And then the 69.5 in 2010 grew to 81.5 in that fifth grade cohort. And in math, you can see similar types of growth. We like that upward trend. We're very happy with our math growth at 94.5% at fifth grade in 2011. And that's up from 47% the year before. Tucker School last year was #1 in the state in our fifth grade in student growth. This is off the DOE website. And that's at 94.5% in our fifth grade. We were #1 in student growth in grade 5 in our African American subgroup, and we were #1 in student growth in our male subgroup in math. And because of our strong growth, Tucker was one of 127 schools in Massachusetts to receive a commendation last year for high student growth. Commendation schools are recognized for narrowing the proficiency gap for strong growth 2 years in a row. And so we demonstrated above average growth of over 60%. When we compare Tucker students to the district, This is our grade 5 students. You can see in 2009, we were at 73%, and the district was at 80%, and each year we've increased. So last year, we were at 84% of students at proficient or higher, and the district was at 82% in English language arts. And in math, we have grown to 82%, 83%. We're either meeting the district or exceeding the district with our 5th graders in math, with number of students, with percentage of students at proficient and plus. So over the years, and when I first came to Tucker School, Drew Eccleston set practices in place before I got there, and we've continued with those practices, and we've added some. But the top one, rigorous instruction, was his charge to me as I came to Tucker School. And that was the mantra that he was pushing forward. So we've continued with that. We've added the idea of mastery learning. If students do not achieve an 85% on a test, we reteach it and we teach it again until they reach that 85. And what we've seen in our data analysis in terms of test scores is that really is the magic number, 85, to kind of guarantee proficiency. The 80% was iffy. A personal best philosophy we've talked about. We really promote student leadership at Tucker. We want our students to see themselves as student leaders, the kind of people who can accomplish things, who can do things. We have many programs for extended time on learning before school and after school. Tucker School is a professional learning community. We have a lot of collaborative professional development. The focus this year is on writing. We have a school-wide system of assessment and accountability. We have trimester assessments that we have in place so we can continually monitor student progress. We offer a tiered model of intervention because we have the regular classroom instruction, small group instruction, Title I instruction, and special ed instruction, and strong homeschool partnerships. So that's a lot of numbers and a lot of stuff, but overall, Tucker School has made AYP in math and ELA in all grades across all subgroups. We have high overall student growth. In ELA, it's at 70%, at math at 81.5 as a school. We've continued to increase our open response scores, and we've continued to increase proficiency in targeted standards in ELA and math. So we really targeted standards. We looked at our standards reports through our MCAS, and we identified particular standards that the students weren't doing well, and we've continued to narrow that gap quite significantly over the last couple years. So Deb Fedracki is going to talk, as a teacher of Tucker School, more about what the data revealed.
The first thing I'd like to just say is that when we talk about personal best, this is something that all of the kids say and that they know. We, every morning, Mrs. Uretsky, she does the Pledge of Allegiance, and she reminds students and teachers to do our best work, not our fastest work, and then sometimes she adds in not our slowest work either. But the kids are always, you know, it's my best work, not my fastest, and, you know, the idea of doing your work thoroughly and completely, taking pride in your work, turning in homework that is neat, well-written, and complete. So as teachers, you know, we're very happy about the progress that the Tucker School students are making, and, you know, we're pleased with that, but we can't rest on our laurels. So when we look at the data, we see that we have definite areas of relative strength. And when you're looking at English language arts, our open responses, we grew in that area. Students are writing more, they're writing more thorough responses, and we made a real push to look at how the students answer the questions. Why are they leaving parts out? Why are they including things that maybe they don't need? How can their answers be better? And working very closely with the students around that. We found areas of strength in theme, language, reading and literature, and the open response, as I said. Then we looked at the areas of relative weakness and what do we need to push while maintaining those areas of strength. We don't want anything else to fall, you know, by the wayside. So how can we increase this? We want to continue to work on those open responses because that's something that grows with the students. You know, what a fourth grade student writes In 4th grade is fine, but in 5th grade it needs to be better. We need to work on our nonfiction, we need to work on dramatic literature, and we have some initiatives in place to accomplish that. If you look at our math scores, again, you'll see that we need to continue working with the open responses. While we've seen nice growth in that area, we'd like to, see even more. Data analysis, transformations in symmetry, all of these are areas that we're targeting in math to increase our students' performance. So how are we doing that? If you look at the English language arts initiatives across the district, we've been working on improving the curriculum and making sure the curriculum is aligned with the new standards. We have a system of testing where the students are tested in reading 3 times a year so that we can see if there's growth. If there isn't growth, what can we do to make sure there is growth? Are students growing enough? We have different types of instruction in that we have full group in the classroom, we have small group, we have Title I support, we have special ed support, we have our special ed teachers and specialists going into the classroom so that this way everyone's able to benefit from their expertise. We've worked very, very hard on developing those open responses, working as teachers in groups. I would score it, another teacher would score it. What do you think? What does the student need to do? As Marcia said, every student counts, and we know every student. So, we're able to look at the individual students and say, why haven't you grown, or why have you grown so much? What are you doing that someone else might not be doing? We're also working in teams, grade level teams, to improve the long composition and writing in general. When we look at the math, again, we're working for that 85% proficiency, and as a teacher, I'm here to tell you that we do reteach, we do give packets to review, we do give a new test. We hope they get an 85. If they don't, we do reteach, we do give new packets, we do give a new test, and it's a good thing we have computers nowadays because we're able to change those numbers pretty easily. We do math probes to see, do the students have the skills, and that's done in the classroom. Are students subtracting with regrouping? Do the students know their basic facts? We've been looking closely at the data from the unit tests that Holly Concannon has initiated across the district. Where are students doing well, and where do we need to target our instruction even further? We have some programs at Tucker, including before school math, morning math as the kids call it. And math is a slam dunk, which is a Saturday program where the kids come in and they do math and then they get to play basketball as well. So I think that we have a variety of approaches. We continue to look for new ways and for more ways to improve our students' performance. We're pleased with the progress we're making, and we hope to make even more.
This year, because personal best doesn't just mean that students who are working below proficiency levels should grow, it means that all students should give their personal best. This year, with the support of Holly Concannon, our math coordinator, we're working on differentiated grouping in math so that we have enrichment groups in math in 3rd and 4th grade, and we're very excited about that. So children who are working at the proficient levels are doing above grade level work, and we're working to push them into the advanced categories as well. And so at that same time, it changes the groupings around, and we're able to mix students between classes, which creates another strong dynamic of students, getting the chance to work with other children besides the children just in their classroom. And it's a healthy type of competition. So we're very excited about this new way to grow math, and Deb Fedraki's 4th graders will be participating in this, and our 3rd grade team has already begun that. But as hard as we work, we can't do it without the parents. So we have a lot of parent initiatives happening too that Kristen and Katie will tell you about.
Great. So, hello everyone. I wanted to just talk about a little bit how Deb and Masha had mentioned personal best at Tucker. When something already exists, the parent involvement, when I came in 3 years ago, it was already there, and how do we really build on that? And we've taken on some really good initiatives over the last couple years, building on what has already existed. In the spring, we did open-ended surveys to parents to see how we can reach parents that aren't showing up for things. And it was great. We were really able to see the stories that parents were telling us about, expertise that they might want to share with the Tucker, as well as things that are difficult, maybe why they're not coming to an event, or maybe why they're not there. And we were really able to, it was a collaboration we did with School Site Council and PTO, and then to really take that open-ended data and really take it and then send it off to PTO when they started building for this year, and that's been great. I've seen a difference. The little things, having events and having daycare available, having a dinner available. If you're going to have an event from 5:30 to 7:30, having a dinner available so parents don't feel that stress of paying a babysitter and having dinner when you get home. So just the little things have made a big difference. Also building on the Tucker Pride newsletter. It's a great newsletter, but now it's going out bi-monthly, as well as a weekly update, and also like a Connect Ed that goes to all the homes on Sunday nights with reminders of what's going on in the week. So if maybe you missed that backpack newsletter, it's the school calls you and gives you a reminder, which has been great. Also, on Thursdays, it's continued, all the flyers go home on Thursdays, but also the Ed line has been updated this year. And it looks great, and all the teachers are using it, and all the classrooms homework is posted so that it's much more parent-friendly and teacher-friendly too, I think. And I wanted to mention, do you want to talk a little bit about the integration? Sure.
Another piece that we're really trying to work on as well is really outside of the family involvement, which has been really successful, and we've really seen a difference. We're also trying to really involve our in-house Tucker community, really mixing the French and English programs together. For instance, one of the ways we're doing that is with the Meet the Artist program at Tucker. We're organizing it so both French and English students will learn the program together. So we'll have a few students from one class in French and a few students from the English class, and that way they're being introduced to be integrated together sooner than third, fourth, fifth grade. So we're about to roll that out in right after the holidays, so I think it's going to be really great. We're excited.
We're
for
really
that.
trying to just do natural moments that are happening already in the school to really integrate. So the families are integrating too, so it's not so separate. Sometimes it can get like that. So really that we're all Tucker families and working together. So.
Just want to share one thing we did at open house this year, and it was a fifth grade parent, Mrs. Harrell. Instead of having the typical bake sale, we had soups and stews to go, and families could come in to their conference with a parent and leave with a quart of soup, hot soup or hot stew or macaroni and cheese, and go home and feed their family right after the conference. And it was a huge hit.
And
It-
teachers were able to get soup and, as well. It was fantastic.
And
It really was.
it was affordable, and it's going to be a regular Tucker tradition from now on. So that was wonderful.
Who did the soup? I'm sorry.
It was the fifth grade parents. They joined together and they brought in crock pots and they made homemade soups and stews and anything that would go in a crock pot. Macaroni and cheese, American chopped suey, and they had takeout quart containers.
Those little things though that make such a difference when you're running around.
And it smelled so delicious
It
when
did.
you walked in.
Yeah, you were there
The
that
aroma
night.
was great.
So the Tucker story is a story of, we have students. Our students come to us with a wide range of backgrounds, a wide range of background knowledge, experiences, diversity in culture, diversity in language. But by the time our students leave us in fifth grade, they are able to leave us competing with students across the district of Milton. And we know Milton is a high-performing district, so they're competing with students across the state. And we know our state is one of the top performers in the country, so they're competing with students across the United States. So if we have the students and we have them through the fifth grade, we feel confident that we're able to get them to where we need to get them so they can achieve their goals.
Any questions?
Matt, you want to turn on the lights
Yeah.
for them?
I got a question. Okay, Mr. Kane?
Well, Mr. Johnson down there has a remark too.
All right.
I feel like the steps that you guys are taking is remarkable because as a student at Tucker School, I felt like motivation was something that some students didn't have. A lot of like the peers I worked with, like I felt like when they were down, like grade wise or something at home, it kind of reflected how they worked, and I feel like that's something that needs to be started earlier, and I think you guys are doing a great job at that. And especially I see that in my sister because she's always working, and she hates when I try to help her because she's like, I try to do my personal best every day. So I just want to say thank you guys. So.
It's great to hear.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Kane?
Well, I've been a Tucker dad for about 11 years. Put 3 daughters through Tucker, and anybody who's a Tucker dad or a mom, you know that we're very proud. A number of years ago, when we were having issues at the Tucker, the way we resolved it was by bringing parents into the classroom. Is that still happening? I know there's a lot of family involvement, but when I went into a classroom, or my wife or a lot of other parents, we saw the change immediately. There was a sense of pride, and then other kids would bring their parents in, and it was like a ripple effect, and all of a sudden we became a great school.
There's a lot of opportunities for parents to come into the classroom, and you guys, you want to talk about it a little bit?
I was actually going to say, one of the big things this year that we've been working on is really trying to find, I think stemming from the survey as well, trying to find opportunities for the parents to become involved, not just in the day. For instance, at Unity Night, if someone is working full-time in a job that they can't get away for an hour or two to read a story or to help with math games or be part of computer lab, then they can be there to help with doing the potlucks or doing Unity Night, helping the students get on stage and off stage and whatnot. So different times of the day. If they can't be there in the day, maybe they can volunteer at night. So we're really trying to ramp that up and not just have a specialty. They can just come in and read a book or do a craft or do math games. So really coordinating with the room parents to help make that happen, to coordinate with the parents.
And if I might, to Mr. Cohane's remark, your Unity Night the other night, I had a family commitment, but I saw the beginning of it, and outstanding schools are based on student achievement, but student satisfaction with the school, parental guardian satisfaction, and you had to see it to believe it. I've always heard about it, but it's so large that they've had to move to Pierce and now to the high school auditorium to be able to house all of the students and extended families. And so, to Mr. Cohane's point, you've done an outstanding job, and it's working.
And we built the high school auditorium.
Wow.
Just one last comment. And this is on a fun note. Yes, last week I decided to see how many people were interested in getting a Christmas get-together for Tucker dads. And I sent out a general email, and the response was unreal. And we're meeting tomorrow night, a bunch of us. We call it the Tucker Dads Association.
You want to use the school site?
I could, yeah.
And we'll be welcoming you because our holiday Christmas party is at the same site as you'll be tomorrow night, and so I will be there to say thank you to all of you.
So if you could reserve a seat.
Oh, Mr. Cohane, we'll open the school for your group.
Yeah.
You let them go to the restaurant, we'll open the school for you.
Thank you, Ms.
So the
Superintendent.
answer to your question, Mr. Cohen, there's a strong parent presence.
Nice.
There is, a strong parent presence.
And years afterward.
Yes.
You have 3 of the 6 members of the school committee are Tucker parents.
You're all Tucker dads.
Mr. Walker?
I just wanted to commend you all, the students, the parents, the teachers, and the leadership team should all be commended. This is very, very impressive performance, and it'll be interesting to see how those students, those 4th and 5th graders, as they move to Pierce and high school, if that growth and improvement continues. But very, very impressive work.
Can I share one story?
You should be very proud of yourselves. And let me know when the next macaroni and cheese night is.
Ms. Sheridan, then I'll give us.
I would like to echo Mr. Walker's comments. This is just outstanding. And your presentation, it has such a warm feeling to it. And you feel that's, I mean, just to hear you speak about the school sounded so warm and comforting. And to walk inside the building, you get that same exact feeling. You have people greeting people by name, and it's just a very inviting environment for children today, and that's in addition to the rigor that you provide. I just want to also comment about the mastery work that you're doing. I think that's exceptional, and I'm in awe of the work that you're doing around that, and I think you're to be congratulated, so thank you.
Bagley Jones.
I don't know if there are questions or comments, but one question I have, is the Math Slam Dunk, is that still parent Steve Shapiro?
Excuse me?
The Math Slam Dunk Saturday program
Yes,
that starts in
still
January?
Yes.
Is it still parent Steve Shapiro doing it?
Yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
wanted to.
We'll do a plug on that
shout
point
out for
January
him.
4th.
I really like what you said about integrating the French and English students at a younger age, and you're doing it in one program, one activity?
We're doing it in a few different activities, but we want it to be a natural kind of fit. So we're doing it in our math enrichment groups, and we're also doing it in the Meet the Artist program, which begins in kindergarten. So with that, it would be grades 1, 2, 3, and we have a parent group, to just plug the parents again, who want to expand it to grade 4. So we'll probably be doing that this year.
I think that's great, and I hope that every school is doing that. I'm not sure if they are, but I think it's a really positive thing to do, in addition to everything else you're already doing. I did really like the way you presented the areas of strengths and weaknesses. It's good to be positive, but it's good to be realistic too, and to not sugarcoat things. Here are some things, there are some weaknesses. On the other hand, here are our strengths, and I think that that's really important to do, and just gives me a lot of faith in what you're doing. I guess I would be curious, because there is such huge improvement, what would the parents say and what would the teachers say, and maybe they can't say this, I don't know, in terms of what's the factor that's the most important factor in this kind of growth? You know, from a parent perspective and from a teacher perspective, why this huge amount of growth? Which is spectacular, but
What do you think, Deb?
I think as a teacher.
not to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, not to put me
I'd
on the
be
spot.
curious.
I do think, and I've worked in, different schools through in the Milton Public Schools. I think that there's a collaboration at Tucker that you don't see in many schools, in the country. I think that, I'm not, but most of the teachers are young staff. They're, enthusiastic, and they're very open to new ideas, and what do you think about this, which makes it easier for me to say, well, what do you think about this? So I think there's a lot of collaboration, and a lot of, this worked in my classroom, oh, okay, I'll try that, and a lot of inviting people into the classroom, hey, can you come in and see how I do this, what do you think about this, how can I improve it? I think that as a staff, it's a small staff, we're very collegial, but we're also very collaborative, and I think that's probably one of the biggest factors.
Great, thank you.
Nobody has any secrets. If it worked for me, it'll work in the next room, too.
And as parents, we both came in, our children are in 2nd grade, so we came in under Marsha's regime. So I don't know what it was like before. I think just the personal best
Katie
is
has a child in the French program, and Kristen has a child in the English program.
in their best
and the-
buddies.
But I do think it's just roll up your sleeves and do the work, and it's kind of no nonsense. It's going back to, you can't keep growing if you don't have a solid foundation. So I think the idea of mastery learning is building that solid, basic foundation of basic skills in confidence, because you have that solid foundation so that you can achieve the higher level and the more abstract type of learning. And when you give teachers the strategies of how can that mastery learning work, kind of some simple, no-nonsense strategies, they're able to do it.
May I add one? And also, we've given you the Tucker's district-wide plan, their school improvement plan, and we work as a leadership group coming up with the goals. And to Ms. Uretsky's credit in this site council, last year at the end of the year, when we sit down and we evaluate the individual schools' goals and district-wide plan, if you shut your eyes, Ms. Uretsky's plan was what she speaks about at every leadership meeting or every day when we talk to her. So the plan isn't written and put away on a shelf, and then we look at it in June to see how we did. I used Ms. Shuretsky as an example with the leadership team. If this isn't alive, then what are we doing? And so I would urge you to go over, each school will give you their school improvement plan created by their site council, examined by their site council. The school, the entire staff owns the plan. And if you looked at Ms. Shuretsky's plan last year, and again this year, you would hear the voice of the Tucker coming through this plan. So I would encourage the school committee to look at this school improvement plan. It's outstanding. So again, you have, to your credit, you have a plan. You implement your plan. You're continually assessing the success of your plan. And I personally think, to Ms. Sheridan's point, the attainment of 85%, or we're going to stay with it in differentiating the instruction within each class.
Ms. Kelly?
Congratulations. I mean, this is really outstanding. And it takes the collaboration you talk about to achieve something like this and to continue it. You know, sometimes you can really go full force at something for a limited amount of time. The real key to success is how do you continue that all along. And certainly under your leadership, it certainly seems like it's working. So congratulations. A couple questions on what you've presented. The math enrichment group, which I totally applaud the differentiated instruction, the fact that you're mixing the French and English. Is that a before or after school program, or is that during the day?
During the day.
It is during the day.
It's on Fridays, and it's a program that all the other elementary schools are piloting as well this year.
Great.
We've initiated, Ms. Kelly, as each school comes, they'll explain, tailored to their school schedule, so as to provide math instruction, we'll be able to differentiate, but we're looking to those students who have a propensity in math and are gifted and talented in providing the appropriate instruction.
Great. And then I had a question on Study Island. Certainly when some other educators have come before us, Study Island is raved about. And one of the concerns is, does everyone have access to be able to use it? And I guess I would be interested to hear whether Tucker students are able to access it and are utilizing it to the same extent perhaps that others have presented.
Do you want to talk about
Sure. Yes, we use Study Island. We use Study Island during our computer lab time. We use Study Island sometimes in small groups for math instruction. So we do use it during the school day with the kids. Many kids have access to computers. You know, I have the administrative rights at Tucker, so I can count like how many questions people have done. And we have some students who are doing amazing numbers of questions. We also have students who might use the computer lab, especially as the weather gets bad. They'll use it during recess. We have some students who use it after school as part of the after-school program. I've had a couple of kids come in early asking, you know, Mrs. Petraki, can I use your computer, please? I want to do Study Island. I was like, you're kidding, right? But they weren't. So, you know, we do have some kids who are doing that. So for kids who don't have access to a computer at home, you know, we try to make it available in school. We also have a number of kids who have told me they've been at the library. I've seen it with my own eyes. When I've gone to the library to get a book out and there's someone sitting on the computer, you know, what are you doing, honey? Study Island, of course. So I think it is used a lot.
That's
and
great.
We have a lot of questions done.
That's great.
Because our students mostly walk, we only have about 20 students who take the bus. We have students who stay after school, and our after-school program runs till 6 o'clock, and the library's monitored, and they stay after school and do Study Island.
Terrific.
And we're keeping track of how many blue ribbons the classes are earning,
Yep.
so, you know, a little healthy competition there.
Great. And then one other question just on the mastery learning. How do the kids react when they're told they have to retake the test? And I guess the reason I ask is I think sometimes tests are looked at from the child's perspective as I have that one shot at it. I either do good or I don't. And I think the whole concept of mastery learning really emphasizes what testing is supposed to be, is have I learned the material and can I utilize the material? And the fact that I can take the same test is what I'm assuming over and over again until I get it down sort of reinforces, and to some extent, when you translate that to the MCAS, where I think Mr. Phelan always says, this is just a check-in. It's not the thing that's going to make or break you in your educational career. It really is a check-in to see how you're doing and how the system is doing. And I wonder if you have any, sense as to how kids are sort of taking that whole concept of retaking tests.
Well, I think that every child wants to do well on the test the first time out. But the reality is that some people do better than others, and some grades are disappointing. And as I tell kids, on any day, someone can ask you a question that you just plain don't know the answer to. I think that the kids appreciate having the opportunity to increase their grade. You got a 60 on it, now you got a 75, now you got an 85. Or you got an 80. Come on, you can do better than that. Now you have a 90. And I do think that the kids appreciate that. We try not to be, like drudgery about it. We try not to be like, oh, here's a study packet, because we do that kind of work in small groups. And there are small groups going on, I'd say almost 100% of the time. So, you're working on reviewing, adding your decimals, and, this group over here is working on, maybe word problems. The kids don't, it doesn't matter. Because everybody's doing what they need to do. I think that the kids appreciate being able to improve the grades, not to be walking around as a student with a 40 average.
Right.
And they don't take the same test, they take a
It's a
different
similar
content.
test.
Yeah, but it's on the
What
same
children
content.
have said to me was, what they've learned is that it's not that some kids just innately can do well and some kids can't. That they've learned that the effort they put into it and the work they put into it, they've seen themselves as the kind of people who can. And they've seen that it's not a magic, that it really is that, oh, those kids must have studied a little harder.
Right.
Or those kids practiced a little harder, and I can do that too. So we have seen kids start at the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, but the second test, they're starting at 70. The third test, now they're at 85. So we've seen that growth accumulate over time.
That's great. And then the one last thing, sorry, is how does this get shared with your community? Because this is a fabulous presentation about Tucker's success. And I don't know whether, is it posted online or?
This particular one will be posted online tomorrow.
Great.
But we've done presentations to the PTO already and the parent groups and breakfasts and things like that.
That's great.
Mr. Crane?
One thing that we seldom talk about is race relations. And I'm noticing that the African American population is at 41%. I tell a story about years ago when my oldest daughter had a birthday party. And bearing in mind that I grew up in a country that's 99% white, when I came home one day to her I think she was 8, and she had a birthday party. There were 16 girls, and half of them were African Americans. Now, I wasn't used to it because I did grow up in a country that's 99% white. And one of the girls, she was asking me questions, and I thought she was really cute. And when everybody had left, I asked my daughter, what was that girl's name again? And she said, well, like if I had said she was an African American girl, I would have eliminated 50% of the girls in my living room. And she described that girl 10 different ways, except by the color of her skin. Did she have the purple earrings? Did she have something in her hair? My question is are relations that good today as they were back 11 years ago? Are we still teaching the kids?
I mean, I would say yes. I would say yes, as a parent. My daughter, it's similar types of things. It never seems to be mentioned, or it's just part of the culture in the building that, everyone, I mean, we actually, a similar story, we were actually going to pick out a doll for her friend, and we were standing in Toys R Us, and she said to me, she said, Mom, I just don't understand. There's 15 different white girl dolls, and there's only one African American. And my daughter's in 2nd grade, and there's only one African American choice. And that's really not right. They should really have all different kinds of Cabbage Patch Kids in the store. And so we called the manager over and we talked to her, because her bestie is African American, and she said, I want her to have this kind of doll, and they don't have it, and I don't think this is fair. So I mean, this is a 7-year-old, and it was just the most normal. And I looked at her and I said to myself, wow. And I mean, I would say that's that's a huge piece of Tucker. I think that
It is.
it's a truly diverse building.
We don't really hear kids talk about it at all. The cutest thing was, I say good morning to all the families every morning on the curb. They pull up and I open the door and say good morning. And a lot of families walk, and one of my little kindergartners with her braids and her beads comes running down the sidewalk yelling after her friend who just came to Tucker from Turkey. And she's yelling, Yetka, Yetka! And her braids and her beads are bobbing. And it was like just such a classic moment to kind of, put in a capsule the real diversity of Tucker and how the kids see one another.
But I think we have a lot of good news stories about ELA and math and all that. I think the relationship among the races should be a good news story as well. It should be promoted.
Well, I think the Unity Night that we had last week, it's always been Diversity Night. And I think, this year when I was attending, I said, well, why is it, sometimes you hear names are changing and you're like, okay, it's still the same thing. And it was so great to hear, when Marcia got up and she said, we're starting to call it Unity Night because we want to celebrate how we're all united, not how we're all different, how we're all united. And it was a beautiful night. I think
It's always special.
It was great.
I have one more story to tell, why the Tucker has perfected so many aspects of unity. At the Tucker, parent group got together and wrote a grant to the Children's Foundation, the Children's Trust, and reached out to parents who don't speak English, and would invite the parents, the entire family, and they tried a breakfast program, then they tried a dinner program. So eliminating, to your point, you're going to leave and have to hire a babysitter. I went to one of the events, then respecting your time, the parents were asked to come upstairs with a translator. Masha and I presented, and all these issues that these parents weren't able to communicate with anyone in the school about with a translator. But I thought the success of the program was, Masha said to me, the next day on the playground, those children identified with Masha because they knew their parents had been in the school the night before, went home, said, the superintendent told me this, the principal told me this, I've spoken with the principal, and I analogized it to when all of you've run things in the school, your own children have to be proud you're on the school committee. So I would analogize it to those children now have a bond with Masha Uretsky, and another night, a topic might be how to get into all the sports across Milton. And again, meeting the superintendent, that I wouldn't have been able to have that meeting without a translator there. So when we have these town-wide diversity meetings, we share this, and every single one of our schools with our growing ELE children who English isn't their native language, they haven't passed the test when they registered, they need targeted English instruction, is going to replicate it town-wide. And it was a perfect model, every aspect. You didn't have to commit for 16 weeks. I think it was like 4 or 5 sessions, and respecting the time, after 45 minutes, downstairs, join your families who had babysitters there. So you have perfected many, many programs to this inclusive atmosphere and community. Didn't happen by accident.
Mr. Walker, you had a question.
I just wanted to close with one more compliment. Mary and I visited the Tucker last week, and it goes back to something that Linda Lee said a little earlier. You can actually feel the energy and enthusiasm in the school, and that's probably the best compliment anyone can pay. So thanks.
Ms. Bagley-Jones.
Not follow up with a compliment, but that was very well said. Question for you, Mary. So if we didn't have the grant from Children's Trust Fund, which is again another Milton parent, what would we use for interpreters? We don't have money in the budget for that, do we?
No.
Okay. So that's something to think about.
And that's right, if we didn't have the grant, it would be on people's goodwill and everybody's.
Well, it's amazing what surveys can tell too. We learned a lot about our parents in the spring about expertise that people bring.
Can I just follow up on that? How did you do that survey? Was it paper or was
So
it?
the surveys were paper.
Okay.
They were open-ended, so it was a lot of reading, but they told a great story. And what we did is we took all the surveys and we then subdivided them into different sections. So these parents would like to volunteer from home. These parents would like to be a part of a fundraising group. These parents like to do grant writing. These parents like to cook. These parents would like to do something with fitness. These parents are having a hard time getting at these events because of this. So really taking that data, reading through all of it, and then kind of putting it in separate envelopes, simple, and then just handing it off to PTO so that they can then build.
And it sounds like you must have had a good return rate to get that kind of data.
We actually did. What we did was we had a raffle that the class that had the most participation would get like a popsicle party, the teacher that collected, and then we would draw at our end of the year picnic, end of the year cookout or the night that we had. We then drew a raffle for like a $50 cash prize for every parent that submitted the survey. Then we would draw a raffle. So we had a lot of.
Well, thank you very much. It was a
Thank you
wonderful
very much for
presentation.
having
And
us
for those of
tonight.
us who haven't been in the school for a while, it was great reminiscing.
Please visit.
Been a number of years since our
Thank you for having us
fifth
tonight.
grade for my sons.
Briefly on our happenings. Over the last weekend, Milton High School musicians performed at the Forbes Museum Holiday Party, the Jazz Combo, the String Quartet, and the Carolers. On Saturday, Art Space had a successful show in the Keys Room at the Milton Public Library of artwork from Milton High School students. I want you to join me in wishing best wishes and congratulations our Milton High School cafeteria manager, Nora Goonan, our high school students. I heard there were posters down there, and
Yes.
you sent her off in great style into her retirement after 11 years of faithful service to the Milton Public Schools. Of all of the celebrations, she said the posters and during lunch, so you won out. You made her feel really appreciated. Saturday, Marilyn Decker, our science director, has initiated a robotics club here at Milton High School. She's hosting 7 or 8 communities in the cafeteria so that they're getting ready for statewide challenges. This is the first Tech Challenge robotic competition at Milton High School. As we say, Miss Kelly's son has been integral at the middle school on this program that really has expanded. They compete, and so now we have a program at the high school, and not to embarrass you again, but I see your second son? Yes. Involved, and but wonderful, again, speaking to Milton parents, to the Tucker message we sent out, and we have, Miss Kelly, did your son tell you, 5 or 6 engineer parents who are assisting the team. They have shown up, and they're there, and they're making it all work. And so that's this Saturday. Again, we're preparing, we were contacted by the Martin Luther King Holiday Organization Committee so that our students are preparing work now for right after the new year to then be submitted into the Times, who provide an unbelievable insert around Martin Luther King Day, and also the event will continue to be at the site of Temple Shalom, that is now Temple, I should know what the name of the new temple is. Yes, I'm not sure, but we'll on January 4th, we'll have that information, but the celebration is going to remain in that building. Circle January 19th, coming of Guys and Dolls at the PS Middle School, and again, that goes for 2 different nights and an afternoon, and for parents, I want them to circle January 21st on their calendar, and anyone in the viewing audience, kindergarten registration. Huge night for parents with children going into kindergarten. I saw Margaret Eberhardt walk through the library here tonight. In January, the MFE will come to announce in detail $20,000 worth of mini grants. Ms. Kelly and I had the pleasure of hearing the MFE Ms. Kelly detail and discuss every grant over $40,000 worth, and they gave out 20,000 applicants. And as I say, those are voted for, analyzed by a group of their peers and MFE members. I've left green folders at your seats tonight, data from your questions at the last meeting, information that's come up since your last meeting of value to you. And again, on our website tomorrow morning, and it's on tonight, are all the dates for the PTOs where at least 2 to 6 school committee members, they'll all be posted. Matt Gillis, John Phelan, and I will be visiting each school's PTO, doing our detailed budget presentation. And as I say to parents and the PTO presidents, based on the last 2 years, the school committee hears the views of the parents and guardians of our students, citizens interested enough to attend those smaller discussion groups. And again, last year, I saw the school committee take the input from those meetings and actually work on that draft and change some of their priorities and what the budget cuts and reductions will be. So I would encourage families, and the individual principals will advertise those meetings. And that concludes my happenings for tonight. Thank you.
All right, under my report first, Ms. Sheridan on the 350th celebration for Milton.
So tonight I'm not going to talk about events, but I'm going to talk about an opportunity for you to do some holiday shopping and support Milton's 350th events that are coming up. So we have some really exciting things that we're selling. We have this beautiful glass. It's actually made of antique glass, a roundel that has the seal of the town of Milton, and that costs $40. It's heavy. It's leaded glass. It's quite beautiful. We have this awesome mug, and this is my own personal one. It's great. Even though it has gold, it still goes in the microwave, so don't worry about that. And this costs $20. We have the 350th with our logo T-shirt, and if you buy this and a mug, you get a sale price of only $30 for the two things. We have a beautiful calendar that's been created by Milton residents, and if I just flip through, you'll get to see some of the beautiful artwork that's in it. These are all done by Milton residents, and on this calendar are many of the events that have already been scheduled for the 350th, in addition to things like farmers market dates, flower sale dates, townwide things are also included as they were available. This is only $10, and these are going fast, so you can definitely want to pick up one of those, or they make great stocking stuffers and Christmas presents. And then last, but by certainly no means least, we have this beautiful blue plate. This was designed and drawn by Beth Neville, who's a member of our committee and also a resident in Milton. And it depicts many sites around the town. These actually, this is the only one that we have right now. They're coming in on Friday. You can buy it one of two ways. You can buy it as is for $45, or if you'd like an autographed copy, we can have it autographed and get it to you. So if you check on our website or go to the town hall, you can purchase any of these items. There are order forms. Many people are sending emails out throughout town to be able to place an order to purchase any of these. We have many volunteers who are at all of the events, all of the concerts, all of the craft shows and fairs that are around this month. People have been very busy trying to be wherever you may be to make these available for you to purchase. So it's exciting, and next month I'll give you an update as we start the kickoff of our actual 350th celebration year.
And could you give the website, since you said it's available on your website?
Milton 350th with the TH anniversary.org.
Mr.
I
Walker.
just wanted to add and say to my fellow members, watch out, because she's already sold me a calendar, so it's only a matter of time before you have to buy.
She already got me, too.
I only got this side of the table. I'm working my way down.
Came in late. Ms. Sheridan, the calendars are in each public school office.
Thank
for
you.
anyone in the viewing audience. And Ms. Sheridan, would you also share with the viewing audience who might not have read in the local paper about
We had a
another
very
nice surprise?
We had a very exciting thing happen at a meeting in November. Members of the Copeland Foundation, Copeland Family Foundation, attended our meeting to offer a donation of $150,000. So we have, as you've heard me tell little bits and pieces about, all of the many, many, many things that we're planning for this year. And having that donation, of course, it's the generosity just, it's almost leaves me speechless. You should have seen the people around the table when they made the announcement. It was just amazing. But it just allows us to do so much more. And one of the beautiful things about this is what we're trying to do is to leave a lasting gift for the town, which hasn't yet been decided. And coming out after the first of the year, you'll be hearing information about, we're trying to get input from community members about what kind of gift that might be. But now our focus can be on raising funds for that gift and not raising all the funds to do the work that we need to do for this coming year. So there are still fundraisers planned. Actually, if I can just take one more minute. There's an event scheduled, it's not on the calendar because it just happened. It's going to be at the Milton Marketplace Cafe, up above the, I wish I had that information with me, sorry, up above the Fruit Center. And it's going to be on Thursday, January 19th. And that is a wonderful, no, I don't think I have that date right. I'm going to get the date. I'll give it to you by the end of the night. It's going to be a wonderful four-course dinner. And the cost is $150 if you want to come with champagne and appetizers. If you just want to come for the four-course dinner, it's $100. And as I said, this is a fundraiser. It's going to be a great event. The Fruit Center is sponsoring this, and all proceeds from that evening will go to the 350th celebration. Tickets are very limited, and I believe that the mailing went out from the Fruit Center today that might include that information as well. So, but it's all because the Copeland Foundation has given us that money that we're able to just take a big sigh and do some really amazing and exciting things this year. So the Copeland Foundation continues to amaze the Milton community with its generosity. Thank you.
Any other questions from Ms. Sheridan?
How much are the calendars?
The calendars are $10.
The only issue under my report here is a notation on park and recreation bills, just to indicate quickly what's happening here. We were in some discussion with Parks and Recreation about possibly trading some of the fees that they pay to us for using our facilities for some work down at Pierce. That hasn't been able to come to fruition yet, and as a result, we've been sort of sitting on a lot of bills here. I think it was a wish of the committee at this point to just sort of indicate to Mr. Gillis that it might be time to just send a bill on this and bill for these services, and we'll see what happens going forward with any negotiations we may be able to work out with them for some in-kind work on at the back of Pierce. Does anyone else want to add anything to that? I think we'll just...
Well, I think it's important to note that they've been using our facilities rent-free, basically, because they haven't paid their bills. So if it was in the private sector, they'd have an eviction notice. So I think we have to take a stance against them soon, and either do that or demand the money. It's going on a little bit too long. I appreciate the work that many of you have done with the Park and Rec, but it's I believe we have to take a stronger stance towards them. We have bills to pay, and we need that money.
Yes, Ms.
I certainly haven't done the amount of work that you all have done on this issue, and I know that there's lots of issues on both sides or whatever, and I guess I hear what you're saying about it's time to draw the line in the sand, but I also think as from one town department to another town department, it would behoove us all to play nice, all of us, and settle this. So it's directed, I'm not saying we're not doing enough or that they're not doing enough, I'm just putting out a voice to say, I think it would be really important for both sides to come together and settle this somehow. And I know you've tried really hard to do that, so I'm not knocking anybody.
Good point.
Wanna-
But when you're playing nice for 6 months and it still doesn't work, something more
Yep.
aggressive has to be done.
Just wanted to make my point.
Mr. Walker.
Oh, and you did.
I think those are both important points. I think it is also important to note that we're incurring costs. That is, when we open buildings that aren't ordinarily open, we're incurring costs. We're not in a financial position that is such that we can continue to provide that service for free. So as we go through the budget process, it's going to be abundantly clear to anyone who's listening how many challenges we have in terms of what resources are needed and what the gap is between those resources and what we can provide. So we should continue whatever discussions we're having, but I think we've been very patient, and no other entity that rents our facilities gets them for free. And we've basically given them that deal for quite a long time. So I think that we're at a point where we just need to say, let's keep talking about those other possibilities and options, but you need to pay your bills just like everyone else.
All right. So, Mr. Gillis, send the letter tomorrow. Good enough. I have nothing else under my report, so I would move it over to the Finance Subcommittee. And Ms. Kelly.
Thank you very much. The first thing on the agenda is the October expenditure report, which I guess would require a vote. So I would ask Mr. Gillis to give us a brief summary, or maybe just to highlight the issues, like on the first page where there's some negative percentages, just to explain what these are indicating.
Sure. On page 1 of the 4-page report, we have the general fund summary, and we have the 7 school committee categories that I think most of the folks at the table are familiar with. We're in good shape in the bottom line with all 7 of the categories in the aggregate. There are 2 things that jump out. In the instruction, the non-salary portion, that's anything that we expend that isn't really paying our staff. At the end of October, we are at a negative balance of $44,653 for this category. Part of that, or the reason that is negative, is because we have approximately $91,000 in capital expenditures that we charged off to this account to order music equipment. There was a gift through the Copeland Foundation that would normally run through the building project, but the building committee is in its final phases, and they're not meeting too often, and we hope to meet right after the first of the year. And when we do, we'll get that approval at that meeting, which has been in their budget, has been talked about. They've asked us to spend the money. We'll have those bills journal entered over to that fund, and that'll pull the the instruction non-salary account back into the black, and a lot closer to where we should be at the end of that period. The second one is the special education category, the non-salary funds, and that is predominantly tuitions and some contracted services. We get a reimbursement from the state known as the Circuit Breaker Fund. It has nothing to do with electricity, but that's what they call it, the Circuit Breaker Fund. And we get that money each quarter, and we budget for that, and in a way that they require that we take all of our expenditures, which would be about $3.5 million in round numbers, then we have to subtract our circuit breaker reimbursement from that amount. So at times during the year, when you add our encumbrances and our actual expenditures together, it appears that we're negative. In November, we journal entered out the balance that we carried over from the prior year, and we're back in the black when you see the November expenditure report. And as those funds come in at the end of each quarter, at the end of September, at the end of December, we can charge them off and make sure that we stay there. And at the end of October, the current pace, even though you see that as negative, we're doing just fine with where we're at this point. So that's it for the general fund. The grants, No surprises. There is one negative, the Special Ed Early Childhood Fund. We received that money in November, and so the things that we charged off there, we had been given notice of the award. We started spending the money, but we hadn't received the cash yet. This grant doesn't come through the Department of Ed, so it takes a little longer for the Department of Health to get the money to us, but we've had it for a number of years, and it's always come through, so we operated on faith, and that worked out in the following month.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
So that's the circuit breaker? That's the
Yeah.
only reason it's in the negative, because you didn't get the funds yet?
No, we hadn't charged it back, and at that point, we had received some of the funds, but not all of them. We generally only try to do a few entries, so we can easily track everything. The state likes you to run everything through the general fund and then charge it back. So everybody is consistently recording the data the same way for their recall and reporting purposes when they're talking to one of the other 300 business folks that are keeping that. Everybody's doing it the same way. So at times, it can look worse than it actually is. And if the state ever didn't come through with the money, we wouldn't be alone. There would be, almost every other community that gets circuit breaker that would have the same problem. So in all likelihood, they're always going to come through with that obligation. The state would find, if they had to cut somewhere else along the way. The revolving funds, all in all, are in good shape. And last but not least, the school lunch program running well with a solid cash balance. They have, in my opinion, no financial concerns at this point in time. And at the end of October, overall, we're in good shape and where we need to be.
So I move that we accept the October, what are we calling this, budget summary? What budget
Second.
summary?
Expenditure report.
And that expenditure report, and that we post it online for the public to view as they'd like.
So it's moved by Ms. Kelly and seconded by Mr. Walker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
At the next meeting, can we get an update about the banners?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
The next item is the FY13 budget. As you know, we've been working on a presentation for the warrant committee. We met with the school subcommittee of the warrant committee, and, they had some questions, and we'll be answering them on those questions that they have. We are planning to have the FY13 budget binder prepared before we leave for Christmas vacation to be delivered to the warrant committee, so that they will have a good amount of information to go through, so that our meeting on January 11th with the full warrant committee, they'll be well prepared to ask whatever questions they have, and I'm sure we'll do a presentation as well as we have in the past. One of the issues that has come up, and I guess I have to apologize that I didn't bring up at the very start of this process, but we in years past have said to the administration, tell us from a budgeting perspective what you need to have to move the system forward. And I think last year being so stark in terms of available resources, we didn't engage in that. This year, I think hearing that there may be more resources than certainly we have had in the past couple of years, certainly I felt that we should go back to that practice. Even though we've already submitted to the warrant committee a bottom line number, I think it makes sense for the school committee to reconsider, to ask, and this is what at least the finance subcommittee has asked the administration to do, to brainstorm amongst the leadership team and to come up with a list of positions that, if we're able to fund for the school system, would move the system forward. Because ultimately, that's our responsibility. It's how do we continually make the system better. And so the administration has met. I think they've brainstormed. I think they have a list of, I'm not sure how many items, but I think the thought was, could we pick maybe 4, 5, 6 positions and add it as a supplemental to our already submitted budget? But that sort of fulfills our obligation of, presenting to the community what do the Milton Public Schools really need to move forward. So I guess I'd like to have people weigh in as to whether they agree with that perspective, because obviously if we don't all agree, then perhaps we don't need to go through it. But that is sort of what the Finance Subcommittee has been considering.
Mr. Walker?
As a member of the Finance Subcommittee, I've already weighed in. But and you've talked about positions, but I think it's broader than that. I think it's positions, programs, initiatives, anything that might move the system forward in a way that's more significant and more dramatic than kind of the incremental types of progress we've been making. So I think this is a great idea, and we've already previewed for the Warrant Committee that we'll be coming back with a different list than simply what's the impact of the cuts that we've been talking about.
Yes, Ms. Sheridan.
I think it is right. You are right. It is our responsibility to look at the big picture of the schools and what we need. I'm just concerned about the message that it's sending to people at home who have heard our budget presentation saying that we are we're looking to cut, and we've presented what those cuts would look like to the tune of $1.7 million. And now, on the flip side of that, we're talking about the possibility of adding positions. So I think we need to be really clear in how we articulate that to the people, to the community. And as you framed it, that's the work, that is our responsibility. That is the work of the school committee, to look at the school district, to look at what we offer and make those recommendations. So, but I just think it seems like a little bit of a mixed message.
I would totally agree, and that's why I said at the beginning, I wish that we had put that on the table earlier. I think, the Warrant Committee and their request for us to create a negative 1% budget sort of set the tone, and I think we reacted to that, and I think what we said was, let's not go negative 1%, let's go level dollar, or level service rather, level dollar, and then get the gap between the level service and level dollar. But I think I certainly was unaware when that process began that the revenue situation, at least as has been presented publicly, was, a little bit different than it had been in years past. I was not aware of that. So I agree with you. It definitely is sort of a zigzag, and people may get confused. And I think, we, quite frankly, up front should probably apologize for that. But I still think when we're talking about the fact that there may be additional resources available, that's when it just connected with me, at least, to say, we need to at least give that a shot and present how can we move the system forward.
I think it's important to note, too, I mean, we've been in a period for several years now where we've been just struggling to maintain. And our responsibility is more than to struggle to maintain or to, limit the damage to a system in trying financial times. Whether or not money is there, frankly, it makes sense to say, but really what we need, where we should be doing is this. This is what we need, not only to maintain, but to take that next step or two to make the system even better. And even absent money, it's a worthwhile thing to do, because it really is, it not only just fulfills our responsibility, but it says to the town, this is what it costs, this is what it needs. If we don't end up getting it, we don't end up getting it, but you have to make the statement that, this is what's important.
And so the viewing audience, to make it real, last year when we wanted to, we worked with the parents and the teachers, and we wanted to increase art, it had to be the expense of cutting back a librarian. So the viewing audience should know the organization goes ahead for 4,000 children, and we move ahead, but increased funding would enable us not to have to make those difficult choices. At the high school, we put in a debate elective, but we had to eliminate another elective. So I spoke at one meeting about we have non-negotiables. We're not going to touch our co-taught programs. We're not going to have study halls at Milton High School. We have non-negotiables. But then we have other meetings that we talk about the organization has to move ahead. But where are we going to find those funds? So any increased funding, additional positions, to Mr. Walker and Ms. Kelly's point, would enable us to do that. And again, when you have 4,000 children and 500 employees, the organization has to move ahead. They can't stay stagnant. And you're not going to have the same course of study every single year, and you're responding to the needs of the students.
Bishard.
And parents of young children who are new to this system might not know that this is what we've always done. So prior to these last few lean years, as you said, Mrs. Kelly, we always really prepared 3 budgets. One was the level dollar, one was the level service, what it would cost us to take what we have now and move it forward, and one was what we really feel we need. So as it's been said, we really haven't been doing that, but it is past practice, and just feels a little awkward. So I think it's good that you brought that up, Mary, that we're naming it and talking about it now.
Yes, Ms. Bangman-Jones.
The teachers always say there's no such thing as a stupid question. So I'm a little confused. Are we talking about putting the cuts, some positions back in that we've cut, or are we talking about adding some positions to get to what we really need, or both? It was just unclear to me.
I mean, we're really talking about three different scenarios. The worst scenario is what happens if you
Yeah.
get the same number of dollars that you got this year, which is
fair.
what we've presented.
Yeah.
The second sort of scenario is what happens if what would it cost us just to do what we do today next year, which was sort of our starting point. And this is sort of a third scenario that says, beyond what we do today, what is it that we really need to be doing? And what is the 2 or 3, 4, whatever number is, items that we really would want to add to the existing operation, in the best of all possible scenarios, that would bring the system forward. So it's sort of, it's 3 very different levels.
Right.
And, exactly how they play off, if you get, the superintendent mentioned, the issue that things adapt over time. But, I mean, we would just want to say that, this is really what we need. And that is, it had been past practice that we did the 3 budgets. And, yes, it was the past practice that top budget was immediately pared down. But it's still, it's an important thing to say to the community that, this is what we need. This is what the system requires. And it is a judgment to say that, the last couple of years, we've tended to say that, staying in one place was sort of the best possible option given the finances. Well, that's not a permanent scenario. I mean, staying in one place isn't the best possible option. And as hopefully times get a little better financially, we have to go back to saying that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Kelly?
Well, just in terms of process, so is this something we would like to vote on prior to our warrant committee presentation on the 11th? Should this be included in the budget binders that are going out before Christmas? How do we want to proceed in terms of coming to a vote of the school committee as to what we would like, what the dollar amount we would be requesting in addition for the, for the process, to be able to submit it to the warrant committee officially. So I'm just wondering what the pleasure of the committee is.
I think definitely it will require a vote of this committee, I think, at our January 4th meeting. The only question in my mind is whether we sort of give the warrant committee a sort of heads up based on the work of the finance subcommittee and maybe pass that recommendation forward, saying that the school committee will vote it on the 4th so they have something to look at in advance. I don't see that that's really a problem, to give them sort of a lead on where we might be heading. I mean, the timing is going to prevent us from voting it before Christmas. I mean, it isn't going to happen. So, but if the finance committee subcommittee is happy with the list and seems to think it's a list they're willing to recommend to the school committee, I would have no problem with having them forward it to the warrant committee at the same time they're forwarding it to us, just saying it hasn't been voted yet, but this is our recommendation to the school committee. That wouldn't, I don't see that that's an issue. I think it gives the warrant committee a little heads up.
I think we should, I think it's, at this point, it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
So I think I would want all of the school committee members to have seen it at least and had an opportunity to comment. But I think we could, if we can do that before the Christmas vacation, we could provide it at the same time that we provide the binders, and then, as you said, vote on the 4th.
Yes.
Just have one other thought, because we probably will have a quorum of the school committee at the 11th. If that isn't enough time for us to get the information to vote on it, we could maybe meet before the.
We're meeting the
warrant
4th and the 11th. The 4th is our meeting,
Right.
and the 11th is our meeting with the warrant committee.
I'm just asking if that's enough time for you to come up with that information and prepare
Yes.
that. Okay.
So the administration already has a list. The warrant committee certainly could make a recommendation. I don't know that I feel comfortable then forwarding that to the full warrant committee and saying, we've recommended this, but we haven't voted it yet. Is it okay to just verbally say, this is what we're considering doing? Doesn't have to list out what the particular, what the dollar figure is, nor how many positions or things that we're talking about, but the fact that we are reconsidering our submission in terms of what our total budget number is for FY13. And then on the 4th, we could vote the details of it, and then that would become part of our presentation for the 11th. Does that sound
That's fine.
reasonable?
Not a problematic scenario, I don't think.
I'm looking to Mr. Walker because he has some insight with the warrant committee.
My feeling is you just don't want to spring anything on them too
Right,
late.
and exactly. I don't want to spring anything on them.
To consider.
Right.
Well, the fact that we're talking about this publicly may catch, a few people may see it, I don't know. So it's out there. The question is, formally, how do we present it to the warrant committee the best way?
I think we can be ready to, and Mary and Matt, and please comment, but I think we could be ready with a list including costs of those additional resources in time to include it in the binder. I think it's more effective if we provide it in that context.
But the binder goes out next week, and we don't meet again till as a
Right,
full committee
right.
till
So
the
we could
4th.
say that this has been developed by staff. We will have seen it, we won't have voted on it, and we plan to vote on it on January 4th, but I think,
That's fine.
yeah.
And just to be clear, so that would be the full list that they've created, and then,
Well, it would be whatever list we settle on. We've asked them to do a little prioritization, I think.
right, we have,
The Finance Subcommittee is meeting again next Monday?
next Monday, yes.
So
Okay.
there'll be one more pass at it at that
Yes,
point.
one more pass. Okay. I think we have a plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for Finance Subcommittee? We'll move on to the Policy Subcommittee. Ms. Sheridan, Mr. Walker, whoever is doing policy.
We both working on it. I guess I'll report out, and you can chime in whenever you.
Co-chairs and
feel the need.
co-committee.
Yes, exactly. We're it.
Quite comfortable following her lead, so.
So just to back up a minute, the dinner that I was speaking about for the 350th is Thursday, January 26th. So look on the Fruit Center website if you want more specifics about that. We don't have that, sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is the social networking policy, excuse me, of the Milton Public Schools, and all school committee members read this. I want to be clear that, first off, it does not replace our internet acceptable use policy. That's a separate document. It's still, those issues are still needed, that people will use all internet on all computers appropriately, staff and students. So that needs to remain. I'm going to just highlight a few of these topics, just because the viewing public won't really understand what we're talking about. So it's broken up into several categories, and the first one is general concerns, and I'm just going to read portions of it. It's the policy of the Milton Public School District to maintain the professionalism and appropriateness of electronic and/or online communications between students and staff, teachers and coaches at all times. The district recognizes that there are efficient and appropriate means of communication available to staff, teachers, and coaches who need to contact students. Now, I'm just highlighting pieces of this to give you a flavor of what we're talking about. Due to the nature of social networking sites, there exists a risk, without care and planning, that the lines between one's professional life and personal life will be blurred. And I skip down. Using one's own personal resources as opposed to school district resources compromises the teachers as well as the school district's ability to retain public law records in accordance with the requirements of the Commonwealth's Public Records Law. So I think that it's important to know that that's really a big portion of the basis of why we're even having this discussion, that the district is responsible for maintaining public record laws. There are also a list of actions that are prohibited by this policy. And it talks about the fact that the school district expects teachers to keep the line between their professional life and personal life clearly drawn at all times. And that teachers will always adhere to the student privacy rights, which Ms. Gormley firmly, make sure that everyone is very well aware of that. But also that teachers are encouraged to communicate with students and parents on educational matters only and only through school-based resources, again, in order to keep that public record law in accordance to that public record law. So this has come to us. This isn't something that we created ourselves. We did make many changes within it. Not many, but we made some significant changes within it. And it's actually, you read about this in the newspaper almost every week or so about some kind of social networking site or issue that's come up between teachers and students. So hopefully, this is our first reading tonight, and hopefully people had a chance to look at it. And I'm going to stop talking and let you ask any questions or make any comments about this document. Do you have anything you want to add to what I've said already?
No, that's a good summary.
So any questions or comments? Ms. Kelly?
Just a regular question. Can teachers access their school email remotely?
Yes.
So why would there be any reason for a teacher to use a private email to communicate with parents or students? Why isn't it strictly prohibited?
The only time, in all of the discussion, do you mind?
Please, go ahead.
In all of the discussions, the only one that came up would be if a coach had to notify a whole team on an issue, change of date or weather or change of location, something had to be done, and it is. Sometimes the all-call goes on at 2 o'clock, certain games are on. If they can go to Dedham or Framingham or Brookline, but if you're going to other communities, those are canceled.
But again, I guess, why wouldn't you be able to access the school email to just, one would think, and again, I'm not sure what our email system is like, that a coach has an email, grouping that is their team, that if they access the email and send out the 2 o'clock change or whatever, that they would be utilizing the right chain of technology, I guess, would be the way of putting it. And I guess I'm just wondering if that's feasible. And then the lines become very clear. There isn't any gray, and I think it's much easier, quite frankly, to enforce if that can happen. I guess.
And if I might follow up with that one.
I got it.
Oh, you do? You understand it already?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
So there are certain instances where if I'm a coach, I'm out somewhere. So the device that I have to contact people is my cell phone. It would not be, do you have what kind of cell phone do you have?
Oh, you don't even want to know.
All right,
Rotary.
Well, we stop there, but, so I have a BlackBerry. The BlackBerry browser is painfully slow. So the quickest way to notify people would be to send them text messages. So I would send them a text message. Rather than trying to access the school's virtual private network, which is probably the way you get in remotely, which I'm guessing is not that fast to begin with, but on a BlackBerry, it would take, the answer is technologically it would take too long. If I'm trying to get a message out quickly, the quickest way to do it is probably send a text message. So, and we've allowed in here for limited instances where they could do that. If they're at home and they've got hours, yeah, they would probably access their school account. So we've tried to allow for both types of situations.
Saying that the expectation is that they will use the school email system, but if they don't, there is a backup plan for if they need to use another form of communication.
Right. We think they're,
So just even texting, this is how technologically ignorant I am. So when this says use of one's, and I'm sorry, I'm on page 3, use of one's personal email account or social networking account to discuss school business with parents is discouraged. That's different than saying, if you're a coach and you need to send out a quick text message, which I don't know whether that's using their email account or not. Do you see what I'm saying? This, to me, leaves a door open that if we're trying to close doors, shouldn't be left open.
I think that slipped by us, the use of one's personal email account or social networking account, because previously we were very clear that you cannot use your personal you can't go on Facebook, your personal Facebook account, to communicate with teachers or parents. If you want to use Facebook as a form of communication, you need to set up a separate account that's just for schools, and maybe if you're the coach, then you want to communicate via Facebook to your team and parents. So I don't know, Leroy, if you think we should take or social
I agree.
networking out.
We could strike that sentence.
I agree with Ms. Kelly on that one with discouraged. I think it should be prohibited.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
With the,
It is.
oh, it is?
It should.
In another
If you read, everything else in this policy says if you're going to use a social networking account, you have to set up an educational Facebook page. So, yeah, that should have been struck.
that slipped by us.
Which brings me to the next point. So you're not allowed to friend students on your Facebook. Yet, are we allowing them to set up an educational Facebook that's not monitored by the school?
Well, we allow.
Where they are allowed, it says where.
There's a paragraph which says that periodically the superintendent or her designee will go on and monitor, so we certainly have the ability to monitor.
Oh, but the educational one is a private one.
Which one are you on? Which number?
It's on the very
First page?
first page.
Which paragraph?
I'm sorry, the second page. Teachers, staff, and coaches. It's right after 1B.
Yep.
Teacher, staff may not list current students as friends on networking sites.
Right.
And then the next page on paragraph 4. Down at the end, it says the friends associated with such educational Facebook account should only be members of the educational community, such as administrators, teachers, students, and parents of such students. Yet this is a
Oh, here, on the number 5? Okay.
number 4.
Oh, number 4, okay.
Yet this Facebook, this educational Facebook, is also a private one.
Well, it's private, except that since it would include administrators, any of those individuals could monitor it at any time. Since the individuals who have access would include administrators, Mary or any of her designees could monitor it at any time.
No, but if a teacher, my question is, if a teacher wants to set up an educational Facebook as a private Facebook, can they do that? Who's going to monitor it?
No, they can't.
So it has to be set up through the school system?
Well, it has to be set up such that the principal and the leadership team is aware of it and has access to it.
Okay. All right.
I mean, to make it okay, or, right, because I remote access from 2 jobs, And often my own personal email will somehow be what people respond to because I'm on my personal email, even though I'm remotely accessed. And probably my kids could help me figure out how not to do that, but that's what happened where you guys could help me. So I don't know if Mr. Patterson has looked at this in terms of any glitches in terms of from a technology point of view.
Well, I think this is it's a great policy to have. It's just that I think it should be mentioned that the educational Facebook is through the school system.
Well, you can't really set it
Well,
up
it's
through the
not
school
through the,
system.
right.
Well, then who's
You
going to
can't-
monitor it, do you think?
I think it could be, we can add another statement that says that any such account must include access for the principal of that individual school and the superintendent's leadership team.
Yeah. Michelle?
In my ignorance, why would a teacher set up a Facebook account for their educational? Well, I guess let me preface this. We have Edline, and quite frankly, I don't think we utilize Edline to the extent that it should be.
Tucker School is.
Well, yes.
Getting better.
Tucker School. We're getting better, but we have a long way to go. And are we jumping out of that and into something else that we quite, you're going to need to hire another 2 positions to just watch the Facebook traffic to make sure that there aren't people in the group or whatever. Again, my ignorance. Entering into it that shouldn't be there. I don't know how all this works, and I hate to think of all the time that the teacher has to do spending monitoring it, and I guess I would prefer us to start with
I know this is
limits
I know this is
and then open
uncomfortable.
doors slowly, rather than having many doors open and then go, oh boy.
I know this is uncomfortable, but we're moving into the 21st
I
century.
know. Again, if someone could show me what the utilization of an educational Facebook would be, that isn't taking time away from other things.
It's certainly something that
The student has
I'm
to stand
sure
up.
they
and
do.
I'm
Right.
gonna ask
Yeah.
you guys to
Yeah.
explain it to us.
So I think what I would like to say is like I think if you have something on Facebook, it'll probably get to the students faster, and it probably will get to them. In fact, right in Edline, there's a lot of kids that really don't even check their Edline. So if you really want to, if the point is really getting to the kids, it's probably easier to get to them to Facebook,
Yep.
and it's easier. And
I would agree.
you can set up like a public account where anybody can actually kind of like see what's going on in that account. So it would not be like a real like there's nothing that could go there that nobody would not know. So it's like there's no big danger there. So
So there isn't a danger. So
Not in-
people who aren't part of your class, let's say your teacher
Okay.
sets it up for your class. Anybody who's not in your class couldn't join in. They could set up those
right,
limits. Is that what
right.
you're
It,
saying?
could, it can be set up for just the class or just
You have
like the team or.
You have to ask to be a friend. You have to ask to be included in this. We'll have to give Miss.
Thanks, we should have
some
let you
of
talk
our-
first.
So,
I
yeah.
need to talk to my guy.
There
Yeah.
are some parameters of it, but, I mean, students today, and you can answer, correct me if I'm wrong, but kids go to Facebook before they even check their emails. I mean, a lot of,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's usually Facebook or Twitter, so it's usually those 2 things. But I don't know if it'd be like educational wise, but definitely Facebook would be a good way to get people to know what's going on with like the situation sports wise, or like Ms. Jones said, yeah, definitely.
My question with the Facebook is, and I know all about the Facebook with 3 teenage daughters as well.
you're on there too, mister.
I'm on there as well. But how do you monitor the private messaging? It's, anybody can see what's on the actual wall. But if a teacher sends a private message to a student that may be inappropriate, how does that get monitored? Because that's private. How would you suggest that gets
Right.
monitored?
I think they have different type of accounts. There's like accounts for like actual people, and there's like account for like if you have a club or something.
Yeah.
Those kind of accounts do not have the same
Club.
privileges. So it's like if he was to be a coach, he could say like it would not be a coach account. It would be more like a football team account or
Yeah,
a
it's
basketball
public,
account.
yeah, it's more
So therefore, what it would send us, probably would not even be a message. So it's like it's not the same kind of account. It's not really about people. It's more like kind of
like
like
a status,
yeah.
You're just
It's more like-
posting
Yeah, it's-
something.
It's
kind of
more
a
like
different-
a status. It's more for like a whole group of people, not just
Yeah.
one individual. That's what Steve's trying to say. So that's how the a group account would work for Facebook or like a team account, it would be more for the team, not just for the individual person. So
So, for example, the 350th committee has a Facebook page, and we post things there all the time that give updates. Now we have memorabilia to sell, we have events that are coming up, we post it. It's not really so much a back and forth where people write back to us. Occasionally, someone will say, I want to get involved, there's a question, you can answer it. But it's really just, it is just a way to share information. You just wrote down shameless plug. I'm laughing. Sorry. But this is a really important conversation to have, because when we first read this, I was really uncomfortable with this. It just really, there were things in there that, sometimes as a teacher, as an educator, I use my personal email or my personal cell phone to communicate with people. I do that. But now I'm thinking, I never thought of the public record piece of it. So it just sheds a different light on it and the responsibility.
Can I ask a question? Has Mr. Patterson looked at this?
He hasn't looked at this yet.
I mean, I don't mean to delay the second reading, I think it's fine, or whatever reading we're on with first.
This is first.
But it would be good to have our tech person look at this to make sure we're not missing something, right, Mary?
We've sent it out to the head of a union, our attorney, and Bob Patterson, our technology
That's all.
director.
Thank you.
Mary?
And does MASC have a policy? Is this MASC's policy or MASS's?
MASS.
MASS.
Right. And does MASC have a policy? I'd be interested in.
We haven't seen it.
We haven't heard of one, no. So that's a good question.
But I trust MASS.
So, well, I'm sure that you do. So, in the MASS policy, they had that line about the use of one's personal.
Yes.
Yes?
Theirs was actually a little more liberal, but we have
We tightened it up a little bit.
tightened it up. And
That's why we should consult MASC.
we combined our previous social networking policy with this.
I'll add MASC tomorrow if you want me to, or
Sure.
Yeah.
Just for the viewing public, MASC stands for Mass Association of School Committees, and MASS stands for Mass Association of School Superintendents.
I think this is great.
So it's a work in progress. We'll get the input from other people, and we'll do a second reading soon. So I just also need to say that there was previously a one-page policy on Facebook and social networking. This is to replace that policy. Okay.
But incorporates most of the
Yes.
key content from that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not done, can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry. So yesterday, when we were meeting, Charlene came to us with a new document that's deals with sports-related head injuries and concussions, and it's a very thick packet with lots of information. Unfortunately, the backup documentation says that they would like a first read on this policy. They would like the school committees to come up with a first read and get some kind of documentation to the MASC that we've done it by January 1st. So we didn't have enough time. This just came to us 2 weeks ago, or in the past week. So we don't have enough time to do that. But what we have decided is to ask Steve Traster to come to our January 4th meeting. And also, the MASC Council is a Milton parent, and we're going to ask him to join us as well to discuss this policy, this document, and all that pertains to it. We're also sharing this with Margaret Gibbons, our head nurse. So just so you know that we're not quite in compliance. It doesn't have to be completed until March 15th, so we have that deadline, but they were asking if we could do a first brush at.
Well,
at
we
it.
could send an email to MASC just saying it is scheduled for our January 4th meeting and leave it at that. You know,
Okay.
and so they'll know we're looking at it, but, we're not going to make a January 1st deadline.
So
on
could that
something
come
that-
from you, Glenn?
Sure,
Okay.
not a problem.
Is it by law it's due by March 15th?
No.
It's actually a communication of the Department of Public Health.
Oh, right, I'm sorry. That's who was supposed to get it, was, yeah, the Department of Public Health.
Just
MASC
send,
won't be interested.
Yeah, you don't
Send-
have to tell them.
well, send me the information of where I need to send it.
Okay.
Now I'll communicate with.
All right. And finally, the other thing, so we're working our way through Section A of our policy book that we have. And next up, the next few things that we have to talk about, really talk about our core values and our educational philosophy. And we feel that this is not something that the two of us can do on behalf of the school committee. So we'd like to ask if there's time in the month of January for us to perhaps have a retreat when we can tear this apart and really look at it in great detail. As we looked at our calendars, Wednesday, January 25th was a date. I know January is insane in terms of all these nights out. It's just a proposal. We don't have to meet that time, but that would be our
Could we
suggestion.
put it to the next month, only because we have, I think, 6 meetings in January? I mean, so put it like, even just in February psychologically? February 1st? I don't know. It's a lot of meetings.
The thought was that we still need to finalize the discussion of Mary's goals. And since educational philosophy kind of dovetails with that, we thought we could hopefully do that all at once. But we're already halfway into the year that these are supposed to be goals for her to be performing against. So I think we should finalize that as soon as we can.
We'll check calendars and see what is available for people, or maybe have Charlene poll people and see what we can come up with for.
Can I ask a question about the calendar? January 4th, we have the Pierce PTO at 6, and then we have a meeting here at 7.
Yes, we're busy.
And then Thursday night, and then Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night of the whole next week.
So, just,
Even putting it off in January, to the end of January.
everyone does not have to go to all the PTOs. If you all want to make it
But
to all of
some
them.
of us.
No, no, no. So if we want to, you know.
Everybody will be at some.
Correct. And so if we want to put out a schedule that makes it a little bit less burdensome on people, that might probably be something to take up with the Finance Subcommittee on Monday. How's that?
Let's do it.
So we will have, we'll look to schedule
Right.
a retreat date when we can review this policy and align it with the goals of this family.
You can do a doodle poll.
A doodle poll. Okay.
We'll have you doing this stuff soon enough.
Yeah.
And if technology hadn't held us up today, you would have had another packet of policies to do for your homework, but we'll get those to you electronically. Thank you, gentlemen. Lady.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Sheridan?
That's all, thank you.
Old business. We have citizen speak topic response. We haven't had any citizen speak that we've responded to in a while, or that I don't think
but
we've
may-
needed to.
Would you clarify
Oh,
for the
yes.
viewing public?
The Martin Luther King celebration is at the same location, the former Temple Shalom, which is now the Concord Baptist Church on Blue Hill
Thank you.
Avenue. So we have a name for it.
And that's 180 Blue Hill.
180 Blue Hill Ave. If you could find Temple Shalom, you can find this. It's in the same place. Anything else for next meeting agenda items? I think we have lots of next meeting,
Giving you
lots
them, yeah.
of next meeting agenda items. But seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Ms. Sheridan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, good night. Thank you, Cable.
Thank you, Leanne Cruikshank.
Glad I'm not going to be doing this in January.